Hello, everybody, and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43, and tonight we are taking our very first look at the new Tier 7 supercruiser for the French, the Cherbourg. Cherbourg. The Sherbert. That's what we're calling it from now on. That's its name. Anyway, let's get to the commander. I'm running Andre Lemonnier. I'm assuming that's how you pronounce it. Francesco Mimbelli and Nikolai Kuznetsov. We are running Beyond Range, Igniter, Punch Through, and Fixated with Fully Packed. Anyway, let's just get to the rest of it real quick before I start rambling. Alright, so Aiming Systems Mod 1. Propulsion mod, you might want to switch propulsion mod out for steering gears just due to the fact the steering time is not particularly great. But being able to throttle jock is pretty important in this. So, or throttle juke, whatever you want to call it. So, highly recommend propulsion mod. You're going to have to just get used to the terrible turn rate. Concealment mod, obviously. And then, of course, we're running the main battery mod 3 to give us a little bit more DPM because God help you with this thing's DPM. It's terrible. But anyway, the bad thing about this, it slows down your main battery traverse because reasons. Gotta balance, I guess. Which is not very good in this thing because it already has pretty slow traverse. So, not ideal. We are fully upgraded. We are running the main battery reload booster because why wouldn't you? We're running the 3 heals because why wouldn't you? I guess the only question would be whether you decide to go with an Arthas build and then you could throw the catapult fighter on, but you're missing out on the heals with the short amount of hit points you get. It doesn't make any sense. And then, of course, you got your engine boost, which you need too. You need speed. Speed is what you need. But we are running the Italian Unity flag because if you squint just right and hold your tongue just right, it does kind of look like a Spartan helmet. And we're running the pirate camo because it looks cool on this particular ship. That's the first ship that I've actually enjoyed this camo on, so I went with it. The specs, we've got only 49,500 hit points and a 25% torpedo damage reduction. Main battery, you got 305 millimeters, 50 caliber MLE 1930s. You get 8 of them in a quad turret by 2 design. Yeah, it's odd. But they're 305 millimeters, so super cruiser. Firing range, 18.5 kilometers, so not amazing, but not terrible. Reload time, 24.8 seconds. Awful. Awful. Yes, you have reload boosters, but awful. 180 degree turn time is 35.3 seconds because of that main battery reload mod at the end. Awful. Awful. Main HE maximum HE shell damage is 4,050 with a 20% chance to set fire, so pretty solid there. AP shell maximum damage is a piddly 8,856. I'm not making this up. That means when you inevitably overpin everything, you're doing 800 damage per hit. It's pathetic. Secondaries, you get 130 millimeter 45 caliber MLE 1932s. You get 14 of them, reaching out to 5.2 kilometers, reloading in 5 seconds with a maximum damage of HE of 1900 and a 12% chance to set fires. AA defense is there. 25 millimeter 60 caliber CAD MLE 1939s. You get 32 of those, doing 90 damage per second, reaching out to 3.1 kilometers. Then you got the 37 millimeter 70 caliber ACAD MLE 1936s. You get 12 of those, doing 73 damage per second, reaching out to 3.5 kilometers. Then you have the 130 millimeter 45 caliber MLE 1932s. You get 14 of those. It's dual purpose secondaries, and they do 60 damage per second, 5.2 kilometers. Not particularly amazing. Maximum speed without the engine boost, you're doing about 32 knots, which is average. Once you get the speed boost going, I've had it up over 38 knots, so, and that's not building for speed. If you built this thing for speed, you could probably achieve some pretty crazy speeds out of it. But turning circle is 670 meters. It's kind of a lie because the rudder shift is so bad. Again, you may want to swap out propulsion mod for rudder shift to give you a little bit more maneuverability. The only reason I haven't done that is because the turret traverse is so bad with this build. So there's probably other ways to build this for like, you know, just better overall, but this is where I'm at. Concealment's decent. It's not great, not terrible. 10.3 kilometers for a cruiser. It's not bad. You couple that with the speed, it allows you to get to some funny-ish angles. Allows you to get some ridiculous starts. But the biggest issue that I've had with this ship is that I get into a match, I get into a flanking position, and the game is over in 7 minutes, and you don't ever get a chance to actually like make a huge game out of it. But 9.1 kilometer smoke firing penalty, and 2 is always guaranteed. All right, statistics. Here's what we're going to look at. We've played 12 games. We have 10 victories. So that in and of itself should go, oh my God, this thing is amazing. Main gun accuracy shows 45%, but it feels a lot worse than that at times. You'll know why in a little bit. Average damage is exactly what it looks like. 73,000 is pretty much what I was getting every single time. But again, most of these matches were over in like 8 minutes, and I'm not exaggerating. It was like mind-boggling. I would get into a great position, think I'm going to have a great game, and the game would be over before I could blink. It's like, what the heck, man? Potential damage is a little bit low, but pretty high for a cruiser. But that's because I'm putting it in ridiculous places. Highest, we won't go into that. Armor, though, that's this thing's biggest weakness. Imagine you took a Strasbourg or a Donkey. You gave it smaller turrets, a worse reload, and you said, go to tier 7. That's what you've got, right? It's got smaller guns. It's got a terrible reload. It's got no armor to speak of. I know it looks like it has armor, but the front is literally 25, which means anything 15 inches and above goes straight through it. And then the sides are 27, which means anything 16 inches and above goes straight through it. Now, the good news is you do actually have a turtleback armor scheme on this thing, so that protects you from being citadeled, except for one major flaw. You can see Citadel is relatively close to the waterline, and you couple that with the turtleback that we just showed you, and it becomes pretty tough to Citadel this ship, unless, of course, you overmatch it and go straight through the bow because the freaking Citadel starts right at the bow of the ship. It's awful. It's awful. It's a skinny Citadel, but it's still there. So, yeah. Do not be surprised if somebody rolls up on you with 15 or 16 inch guns, punches straight through your bow, and hits you for darn near every bit of your 40,000, 49,000 hit points. It's awful. Full speed ahead. Equipped or can be equipped with an engine boost. Barrage. Equipped or can be equipped with main battery reload. Big and flammable. Fires set on this ship last longer due to her large size and high caliber guns. Now, that's the other thing I forgot to mention. Not only do you not have armor. You do not have, like, very good, like, hit points. But on top of that, you get the long reloading freaking damage control. It's awful. It's literally a battleship reloading damage control on a ship that only has 49,000 hit points to start and has no armor to speak of when a battleship shoots in its direction. So you got to avoid everything that you can. Now, if you can keep this thing into a good position and get a broadside, beautiful things will happen, right? Like, it can be absolutely devastating. But it can also get absolutely devastating. We'll talk about that in a minute. One of the things I want to mention, look at the size of this rear mast. Now, I don't know if you guys know how spotting works in this game, but spotting is at the top of the tallest point of your ship. The 800-foot tall mast on the back of this ship means that you can't really use island cover and try to lob it. First of all, you don't have the firing arc for most islands. But like, even if you do find like a little outcropping where you could think you can be cheeky and kind of lob over it, nope, you're going to be spotted because of this gigantic mast. It's insane. There are very few good things about this ship. I'll be honest. I was struggling to find good things to say while I was playing the ship because of a multitude of reasons, which we will go over into the gameplay. But I don't hate the look of it. It's not a bad looking ship, and I like this camo on this ship. Like I said, it looks solid. So with that, let's get to the gameplay. Alright, so we're going to be showing a couple of battles here in this thing. This first one is going to be pretty standard for what I was experiencing in this ship. And this is why I gotta prep, what's the word? I gotta prepare y'all. I want you guys to focus on how quickly I'm able to get the complete flank of the enemy because of their stupidity, honestly, because none of them decided that the sea side of the map was useful, so I'm going to prove to them why it actually is. But other than that, I want you guys to pay attention to how quickly we get around the map to a position where we are absolutely dominant. Okay? Now, this is a very short match. It's going to showcase the strengths of this ship in all its glory, despite the fact it's a super short match. But it shows you the potential of these French cruisers, if you want to call them that. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that these are great ships, all right? They're not. They can be fun. They can have moments of glory, like the ones that you're about to see. But they are so freaking obnoxiously annoying. Like, just when you start to have fun, like you get into a position, you're in a great crossfire, everything's going well, blam! Right through the bow, all your hit points gone, right? Like, it isn't even a question. Because your citadel is so far forward, it is not hard for battleships that overmatch you to just citadel you straight through the bow. We talked about this already. Like, it is insanely obnoxious, right? But, the other thing that I think most people will probably point out is that this thing does not have, I don't care what anybody says, this thing does not have, like, cruisers dispersion. Like, it is obnoxiously bad at times. Now, it does have great shots occasionally, but there will be a lot of shots where you pull the trigger and you leave yourself scratching your eyeballs going, what? What was that? And that's what you're going to see occasionally. More often than I would like to, like, pretend. But here, you're going to see that we've got the Weimar here. And one of the things I will say about these, they got decent velocity shells, as you'd expect from the French magic bullets. And there you can see we are fully capable of neutering cruisers if they give up a broadside. But it's not just cruisers. Remember, these are battleship caliber guns. They're 12-inch guns, 305 millimeters. So anything that gives this thing a broadside, especially at, like, medium to close range, is going to take a beat down. Now, there you just saw that despite, you know, all the facts that this is a cruiser, you don't have those firing arcs. It is a high velocity gun, so you're going to overpin a lot. You're also going to not be able to lob the islands, so you really don't get to use this thing as protection. And like I said, even if you do get to a spot where you can potentially lob the corner of an island like we're going to showcase, that rear mast gets you spotted like crazy. And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's not the rear mast, maybe I'm thinking incorrectly. I know it's one of the masts, maybe the front mast that gets you spotted. But I do know that it's usually the highest point in your ship that gets you spotted. Now here you can see we're looking for the Abruzzi and seeing what he's doing. He's beached himself Austin Powers style. We're just going to reach out and see if we can't slap him. He's over-angled. Hopefully we get some pins as he's reversing. And we absolutely get some pins. And that's why this thing is so incredibly obnoxious. Because one salvo, you'll get something like that. And the next salvo, you'll just look at it and shake your head. I'm not joking. It is just like every French battleship you've ever played in your life, where you'll pull the trigger one time and you'll just wish that you had never took the ship out of the port, and then the next shot you'll get those French magic bullets that somehow just magically dev strike something. It makes no sense half the time. It's that inconsistency, that roulette wheel that you're throwing out there that you just don't know what's gonna happen, right? Like, you're about to witness with this Belfast. Like, I ain't gonna lie, this royally irritated me as we citadel the, was it a Chappie out there that's running? But look, Belfast over-angled. I am expecting dev strike stuff, especially no more health than he has. We didn't aim quite good enough there. We hit a little too far back, but he did beach himself, and he's not really moving, so I'm thinking, all right, well, not even I can screw this shot up, right? So we don't aim direct waterline, we aim right about, I'm expecting to potentially start reversing here, right? Remember what I always say about, you know, you expect people to do smart things and they never do? This is a perfect example. Once again, overpins. So instead of aiming further back on the Belfast, I'm expecting my teammates to finish him off, because so far they've done a pretty good job of doing damage. Heck, they've done more damage to him than I have. But look at this positioning we're in. We're in their spawn, and we are wrecking broadsides like just a couple of minutes into the game. If left unchecked, these things can move around and get into these kinds of positions basically like none other. They do remind me of the Italian cruisers in that sense, which does lead to some very fun moments. And like I said, this is one of those matches where it was incredibly fun, but you're going to see as we shoot at this Nelson. Now, I know the Nelson has belt armor, but this is kind of me just testing the penetration of these shells. I know he's reversing, so I know I can go through the side plating. I know he has a belt, so if I hit the belt, we're not going through, right? But you're going to see some incredibly frustrating shots. Now, we're spotted by this Nelson. Why are we spotted? Because our mast is sticking up above the island. So even though we're trying to utilize the island for cover, he's capable of spotting us. We just too tall. Too tall. Now, I don't know if it's the front mast or the rear mast, but one of them is getting us spotted, and that is no bueno when you're shooting at a battleship who is fully capable of loading armor piercing and neutering you. But we aim high, we get into his guns, we're capable of knocking his guns out. Again, you love to see it. Richelieu is getting assaulted by our destroyer, so he's now charging forward straight into the other 3 battleships. Fortunately, this Nelson doesn't understand how to lead a target. He shoots off to the left. Maybe he does. Maybe it's just real bad RNG on his part. But all those shells missed to the left. So we are just kind of playing possum with this Richelieu, knowing full well that the Richelieu is fully capable of deleting us if he comes around the corner. And so we're just kind of playing around, but this game is very close to being over. 30 points left, another one dies, and there's the end of the game. And despite the incredible performance that we put up in the short amount of time we did, I know it doesn't seem like it because the damage isn't very high, 80k, but we dev struck a cruiser, we got multiple citadels, and like the game was over in 7 minutes or something like that. It was crazy. But this next one is going to showcase the strengths, the weaknesses, and all of the in-betweens with this ship, as much as I can anyway. And this has been my best game in the ship so far because, again, I don't know what it was about the night that I was playing these, aka the very first update, right? Like literally right out the update, I ended up getting this thing and ended up taking it into battles and trying, and I played 12 games with it, like basically back to back to back to back, to really try to understand what I need to do with this ship to make it work. But the games were over so fast. Like, I never really got a chance to get those satisfying numbers that you just look for as a content creator, right? But what we did find was a game where I can showcase the strengths and the weaknesses, and you guys know when I do these meetas, I like to showcase that. Do I recommend this line so far based on this particular ship? And I'm just be honest with you, no. I don't think the majority of people will have a good time in these ships. However, if you're looking for a challenge, if you've done a lot of the lines and you're kind of bored with everything and nothing quite plays, you know, everything seems cut and copy and pasta, you know, that sort of thing, this might be a wake-up for you. You know, just something a little different, fast, agile, surprisingly agile actually, on the initial turn. The turn back, not so much. You can turn the ship very quickly, right? Like, it turns on a dime, seemingly, but it doesn't turn back. It's like once you start a turn, it takes forever to start your turn back. So if you're making those turns, be very, very careful, because you'll be surprised how slow it is to respond when it comes back the other direction. Now, if you're in a straight line and you've got some speed and you can whip that thing, trust me, you will whip this thing. It's like a drift mode. But yeah, it's definitely something to get used to. And it's a different playstyle. And like I said, much like the Italian cruisers, I was playing super aggressively and having a good time. May not be the best cruisers in the world. They may not last that long, especially if you play them super aggressively like I do. But by God, you're going to have a little bit of a giggle fit at least once during the match when you get to those flanking, like, ridiculous flanks. I'm not talking about, ooh, I got a crossfire at like a, 60-degree angle. I might be able to get some shots in here on this guy as he sits there. No, I'm talking about those 90-degree broadsides of everybody sitting in their spawn thinking that they're safe, and then you just show up and you're either using an island, just the corner of an island to lob over like we did in the last one, or you just go whole ham, show up around the corner and go, hey sunshine, guess who's here? And you just go ham on their broadsides, and you force the enemy to react, right? And what do we always talk about crossfires, guys? I always say it's a double-sided, like, fight, right? Like, if you're in a crossfire position, you force the enemy to react. It's not necessarily that you're going to end up with all the damage, but forcing an enemy to turn to engage you say, okay, well, we got to respect this. This battleship caliber guns on our broadside. You force them to turn, and as soon as they go bow into you, suddenly all of those battleships that are sitting in your spawn that ain't moved the entire game because all they can figure out is how to put the ship in reverse, that have 21-kilometer range because they don't know how else to play their battleships, suddenly those guys got broadsides to shoot at. And if you want to see some people melt real quickly, get into some of those positions early on and watch your team just laugh at the enemy as they turn. Now there, we got a pretty nasty hit on the Balti. That's what I'm saying. Like, these French magic bullets occasionally wake up. Like, it doesn't happen all the time, but some of the salvos that you get out of this are devastating. Stupidly effective. And I can't explain it. All I can say is it's French. Like, if you've ever played any of the French battleships, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Sometimes you pull the trigger and you just don't know what the heck the game is thinking. Like, you pull the trigger and the shells just seem to be, like, allergic to one another. They just go everywhere but where you aim. Or, better yet, the ones that look really good and then at the last second just kind of pepper everywhere but the ship that you aimed at. Those are my favorites. But then, occasionally, you'll fire the guns and you'll just get the closest freaking grouping you've ever seen in your life. And you'll land a stupid salvo on somebody and you're just like, what was that? Why can't I get that more often? If that was the case, maybe I could put up with the fact that this thing has a stupid reload. Right? Like, this thing has a stupid reload. Let's not talk about that. Like, this thing has a ridiculously long reload time for what it is. Okay, this thing is not as good as the reload intends it to be, I think. But it has the reload boosters, and the reload boosters aren't that bad in terms of being able to come back, especially if you're running fully packed and you're near an ally, because you'll be able to get your consumable back much faster that way, right? But as we look at the over-angled broadside of a Balti, we are taking the shot. He's avoiding torpedoes, and yeah, you can see the potential is there. That wasn't a particularly accurate salvo, and we're already up to 43,000, and we're already capable of angling away. And this is actually the position I think most people want to play this ship in that kiting position. Those of you who played the Charles Martel, trust me, I know that this thing doesn't have the DPM of a Charles Martel. The Charles Martel is far superior in this role. But, guess what? Bow and stern plating is the same on this thing. But look at the difference between how much room is between the back of your ship and the front of your guns, and the front of your guns and the front of the ship. Does that make sense? There's a lot of room. What I'm saying is there's a lot more room at the back to the Citadel than there is from the front to the Citadel. So, being in the kiting position, you can still have good firing angles over the rear of the ship. Like, you've seen that. But you also get the added protection of not as likely to be citadeled through the rear as you are through the front. Now, I'll be honest, I don't remember. I didn't really pay attention when I looked at the armor. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Citadel does extend further back. If that's the case, then obviously that would be not good. But generally speaking, the Citadel protects the magazines, which are directly next to the turrets. So the fact that we don't have any turrets at the back other than secondaries, maybe the Citadel only goes back slightly beyond the smokestack. Maybe it goes back to the secondaries. Who knows? I didn't pay attention. But this is the kind of shot that drives me crazy. Take the shot, trying to get a cheeky shot over the island. Most cruisers will be able to pull this off. This one overshoots it by 1.5 miles. It's like, really, game? Now, the other unfortunate side of this is that the Brandenburg actually kind of screws up my plan here. I don't have my engine boost anymore, but this is the kind of shot that I'm telling you guys about. Remember, this is a cruiser. 305s, and we just hit a New Jersey for 15K with one salvo. And got ourselves angled. Now, New Jersey obviously overmatches, punishes us for it. Fortunately, he doesn't get the best RNG ever, doesn't end up citadeling us. There, I underestimate the velocity of my gun, so I end up missing the superstructure of the New Jersey. But you can see in the moment, I've already made up my decision. I'm going to ram this New Jersey because he's a very dangerous ship. Brandenburg, not as much. But I'm looking for anybody else to shoot in the meantime. Like, I know that I'm going to get slapped by this New Jersey. Brandenburg isn't a threat. So here I'm thinking, okay, I'll shoot the Brandenburg and then ram But unfortunately, my shells pass through the superstructure of the New Jersey, and I end up doing damage to him instead of the Brandenburg. So I don't get to double dip on the damage, but we do manage to take down the New Jersey with the ram there, which again, there are times to ram, and late in the game like this, taking out a really like very good battleship in the New Jersey, we all know that that thing's fantastic. So taking that ship down, leaving a Brandenburg and a Saint Louis like to fight the rest of your team, I'll take those odds. Taking out any other ship and leaving New Jersey alive, or just going down fighting and leaving the New Jersey alive in that situation, you're rolling the dice, because you know the punching power of an American Iowa class battleship, right? Like, it is very capable of absolutely punishing anything that it shoots at, as we're about to demonstrate with this Iowa shooting at the Brandenburg. Now, Brandenburg just fired his guns at somebody else, so Iowa is full broadside here, and he's going to take a shot into the superstructure of the Brandenburg, and there you go. That's like 10 to 12K probably, maybe more. So it just absolutely punishes the Brandenburg. He's a little more broadside than I like. He's not really respecting the Brandenburg in that sense, and he's turning towards the Brandenburg. So if Brandenburg loads armor piercing and catches him turning in like this, he can easily punish this guy. And he does load armor piercing, and there you go. He did Citadel him at least once and got a couple of pins on top of it, taking about a third of the Iowa's health there. But Iowa does what Iowa does. Railgun salvos inside 5 kilometers, takes another 15K off of the Brandenburg, and everybody else just dog piles on top to go ahead and finish the Brandenburg off pretty quickly here. And that just leaves a destroyer that is nowhere to be found, and the Saint Louis who's hiding in the background while our team caps the base. So overall, my opinion on these ships is, if you're a player that is kind of bored, doesn't really have much to play, or kind of like bored with playing the same ships over and over again, maybe give these things a try and then just play them stupidly aggressive. Get those ridiculous flanks, kind of like I did on my path to the Italian cruisers, the path to the Abruzzi, stuff like that. If you haven't seen that playthrough, you'd be surprised. I had so much fun in those Italian cruisers. Didn't live that long usually, but I had a lot of fun. And we had some ridiculous results. Being stupid aggressive, getting those flanks early, forcing the enemy to come, they have to react to you, right? Now this Kagero has no idea that the destroyer's in the cap with him. Like, he's completely clueless. The destroyer's clearly in the cap, it's contested, but fortunately for him, our team's already got the cap, so it doesn't matter. But I think that despite this thing's inadequacies, I think it can be fun, and I'll have to wait and see what you guys think. I'm not saying it's a good ship. I'm just saying it's different, and it can be a little bit of fun if you can get it into those positions early. And if you like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.